All right, we're going to make Mrs. Culian's fried rice, which is basically just fried rice. But Mrs. Culian taught me how to make it during COVID, so I always give her credit. And our ingredients that we are going to be using are a bunch of veggies. So we're going to be using white onion that we're going to dice. We're going to slice cabbage as thin as we possibly can. We're going to mince our cloves of garlic. We're going to thin slice our green onions. We're going to julienne our carrots. That's the hardest one. And we're going to chop our broccoli. Okay, so on day one, which is Thursday, we're going to do all the prep for the vegetables. And then we are going to make rice using the stovetop method here. And I will come back to that in just a moment. First thing we're gonna do is make our rice. I'm using Calrose rice. It really is the best rice for this type of job. It's also great for sushi rice and things like that. And we need 1.5 cups of rice, and we're gonna use our skillet. And then 3 cups of water, okay? And I measured it out and I checked it at eye level. You just didn't see me do that. Okay, and now I would use the left front burner a lot like I'm using my left front burner. The reason for that at school is because the left front burner is a little bit smaller than the right one. So that's the right one to use for this. And as the directions say, we've added the rice and the water in at the same time, and we're going to bring it to a boil on medium-high heat. So that's where I've got it right now. And then once that is boiling, we will reduce the heat and cover the skillet with a lid. And your lid is metal. Okay, your lid is that metal flat one. This is the one I have at home, sorry. Rice takes a few minutes, so get this going right away on Thursday. All right, guys, first thing we're gonna do here is cut our cabbage super thin. So you wanna figure out where the core is, pull off that outer layer, establish yourself a trash bowl. I think that's a really great idea. That's something Rachel Ray talks about a lot. And just start putting all your trash in one bowl. And then we're gonna just cut the core out of it like that because the core is pretty like tough to chew up. And then to get a nice thin cut on this, just turn it however it sits the best on the cutting board and start cutting very thin, holding of course with your non-dominant hand. Your dominant hand should be doing the cutting. And you're just gonna work as thinly as you can. I don't know about you guys, but a giant piece of cabbage is not super exciting to me when it's like thick, like tough to chew through. And then this piece is gonna get kind of wobbly, so just let it fall. And you're gonna hear me say that a lot when we start cutting a decent amount. Like, don't fight it, just let it fall and then cut it from a different angle. And every time we're going down, we're just moving the knife a tiny bit over. And you're gonna use this whole thing. The cabbage will shrink way down, okay? So once you get here and it's again kind of wobbly, just let it fall. And then, and just keep going and going and going and going. And then again, let it fall. Anytime it gets wobbly, and it's kind of hard to control, just let it fall down. And then when it gets kind of big, like big pieces that you don't really want to chew, they're kind of like not pleasant, you can put those in the trash bowl. But you should get a lot of cabbage. And I know you're probably like, oh, I don't like cabbage or something like that, or maybe I don't want that much. But it does cook down. You will not have a ton of cabbage in the end. So just put your cabbage in a bowl. Every time we cut something, we're gonna just put it in a bowl and have it ready. That's gonna be like our prep station. Okay, we're gonna cut our white onion. You'll get a half just like this. Cut off the top part, not the root. Okay, leave the root. Oop, there's my timer. I'm gonna turn that off. Okay, and then you're gonna take the outermost piece of onion here and you're gonna peel like that so that you have the onion like this. And this is going in my trash bowl. So all my trash is gonna go in one bowl. You might want a bigger bowl than that. All right, so I'm gonna hold my onion, okay? I'm keeping it attached like this. You can continue using the same, you're gonna have 2 knives and 2 cutting boards, but you can just flip flop out because this is not meat, so there's no cross-contamination to worry about. Okay, and we're gonna cut through, but notice I am not cutting the end. And this is totally like a chef thing. Okay, when you watch chefs on TV, this is what they do. They may not have this part here, but they definitely cut their onion like this. So it's all still attached, see? Okay, and then we're gonna take our knife and just cut through, and we're gonna make it nice and small because we're dicing. Remember, cubing is big, chopping is a little bit bigger than dicing, but dicing is pretty small. Okay, and then when it gets a little spread out like that, you can kind of move your knife around, just keep your knuckles so that they are what's closest. And then again, let it fall, okay? Let it fall. Always let everything fall that you're cutting like that. Okay, and then again, trash bowl for that. So my trash bowl has a whole bunch of stuff in it. And I'm gonna put all my onion in this prep bowl here. And then you can keep working on the cutting boards. We will have 2 cutting boards and 2 knives. I know I mentioned that, but I just want to make sure you're actually reading the recipe because that's what it says. Okay, and then I think we should use about 4 green onions. These are really small. If you have big green onions at home, you could use 2. Just depends on the size. These are tiny. And then with green onions, what drives me crazy is you guys only want to use the middle. You throw that away and you throw that away. Green onions are great from here to here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna line them up and just cut off the root, because that's not very yummy, the root part that actually like was in the ground with, growing. Then we're gonna cut all the way from here to this end when they stop like all being present. So not this guy. He's pretty healthy, but like this guy, we'll stop right about there. I find for some reason that you guys think that the white part is not edible. The white part is great. There is nothing at all wrong with it. Okay, you're gonna work on all these at the same time. You're not gonna do one onion at a time. And you guys really we're gonna have to get used to practicing our knife skills and, working with them in the classroom. So you wanna be able to cut onions so they look like that. We're gonna be cutting a lot, especially the first month or so of labs, because I want you to feel comfortable using a knife. Notice I'm using the dull side of the knife. Please don't use the blade. Especially since you guys get the nicer knives, don't mess them up. Okay. And now I'm gonna work on my carrot, and we need to julienne the carrot. And if you remember, sometimes I'm into peeling carrots and sometimes I'm not. But this week I am into peeling them because it's sort of pretty when you julienne them. And I love julienned vegetables, I really do. So we're gonna peel that away from us always. We're gonna put all this in the trash bowl. Little known, very weird thing. My dogs love when I cook those skins. They will eat those like they are candy. It's so funny. Okay, and because this is so long, I'm gonna cut it into thirds so it's easier to deal with. And we're not making French fries this time, which is kind of the idea of what we were doing last time. This time we're gonna do the same technique, but even smaller. So lay it flat, cut that piece off and lay it flat. And this is totally gonna be the hardest one. So we're gonna slice through. And then once it gets wobbly, flip it down and keep going. Okay? And then you'll have to stack these back up. And again, you guys, I don't want to see you cutting one little piece. I want to see you cutting stacks. Be efficient. We're getting to the point now, you know, we will, not necessarily today, but we should be pretty proficient with our knife skills by the end of the year. So if you're not, and you're scared, you should ask mom if you can practice. Okay, so these are smaller than our French fries were. Like you can see, some of them are really, really small. And we want them to be smaller. Now, don't go crazy and stack them up super high, because then it's a little scary. But stack them at least like 3 carats high, and then they look like that. And they really should be. I mean, they say matchsticks when they talk about julienning. And they should be pretty thin. Not that I think you guys use matchsticks very often, but you should at least know what they look like. Okay, and cut that bottom. I mean, if you wanted to, that last flat piece, you could cut and just put in there. So we're gonna do 1 carrot. I'll have it all laid out for you on the board. 1 carrot, half an onion, about 4 green onions, 1/4 of a cabbage, and we'll talk about the garlic in a few minutes. Okay, you get the picture. So they should look kind of like this when you're done. All right, when your rice is done, it should not have any water coming out when you kind of tilt it. That's how you'll know it's finished. And then we're just gonna put the pan in the refrigerator overnight, okay, with a lid so that we know who it belongs to. We'll label it with a sticker on the lid, okay? So after it's been on the stove for 15 minutes, mine took more like 17 minutes. And then we'll get back over here to our veggies in just a moment. Now we're gonna address the garlic, and you may remember that this is called a bulb, okay? And then once we smash it and break it apart, the little pieces are cloves. So we need 3 cloves. 1, 2, and 3. And there's all kinds of funny tricks and ways to get the skin off of garlic. You might remember from last year, one of the ways I show you guys is to cut both the top and the bottom. And then you smash it, but don't smash it like you're trying to destroy it, you know, like I kind of went a little crazy on that one. And then the skin will pop right off. That's garlic, not skin. And this is the skin here. And then this one, this is the skin, and it comes right off. So you shouldn't be spending like, you know, 20 minutes trying to peel the garlic. It should come off relatively easily once you smash it. And then I'm adding to my trash bowl, which is heaping. I know you can't see it, but it is. Okay, now we're gonna mince some garlic, and I'm gonna tell you that you have to get it really small for it to be pleasant. I'm gonna clean off my knife just so that it's ready. You know, you gotta clean your space here. I kind of cleaned mine up in between takes. So with the garlic, we're gonna hold it. Oh, there's a little piece of skin there. Hold it in the very beginning. And just slice it as thin as you can without it being scary. And these knives are like, you know, they're not crazy sharp. They're certainly not like a real chef knife or a sushi chef knife. But they're kind of sharp, okay? And you're gonna pull all this back together into a little pile. And then we're gonna cut through again. This time these fingers are totally out of the way. And I think, and what I see is you guys are always really good at doing this motion. And I think because like I think when you think about cutting, this is what cutting looks like. I might be wrong, but that's my idea of why you guys are pretty good at that. Okay, and then my garlic I'm gonna put in here. Pretty minced up nicely. And then the last thing I'm gonna address is our broccoli. And we need about 1/2 cup. I'll have a piece like cut up for you. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut the, like, you don't have to work really carefully at this. You're not doing it painstakingly tiny. But we're gonna kind of cut it off into little florets like this. That's a word that they use, florets, broccoli florets. And I'm just gonna chop the top like that. And then add this to my trash bowl. And then I'll pull off a few of these. Because we only need 1/2 cup, so I'll pull off, I don't know, 6 or 7 of these. And go from holding it like an upside down tree and cut down and cut down. And your like fingers should not be anywhere near what you're doing. Okay, your fingers should be way out of the way. Just cut down, just cut down. Holding my little upside down tree, cut down, cut down. So I learned how to make Mrs. Culian's fried rice during COVID. This was one of my lessons that, because you know, we had to do like these online lessons every week and they weren't live. So for home ec, I just kind of had to make it like fun, because who was going to take it very seriously during COVID? Not very many people. So I didn't know how to make fried rice, which is kind of weird. And Mrs. Culian taught me, and this is her method. And she learned it from her dad. So it's kind of fun. We're carrying on her family tradition. All right, you guys can see I have my wok here. All right, and then I have all my stuff laid out, mise en place, and everything's cut in a prep bowl. And then the reason my rice is laid out like that is because it was warm, so I was letting it cool laid out on a plate. You do not have to do that weirdness, okay? That's just because it was hot, and it's better to work with cold rice. Okay, so I'm looking here, day 2, and I'm going to put 1 tablespoon of olive oil, which is approximately that much. And then step 2, and this is the first time in my class with you guys that you are allowed to heat up your pan with nothing in it. Remember last year that was a big no-no. But now it is fine because I now trust you. You made the cut and we have an agreement, you and I, that you are trustworthy. Okay? So I've got my oil in there and I'm going to put my white onion, not my green onion, my white onion, and my garlic into the pot here. And we're gonna cook these guys until the onion is clear and the garlic is fragrant. You do not want this to be super high heat or the garlic will burn right off the bat. And you just want to stir them up. The idea with the wok is you're moving them around. And if you remember the word saute, the vocabulary word from last year, it means to jump. So you want to be moving these around and making them jump around a little bit. And when your onions start to look clear, maybe just a little bit brown, don't get super brown. You don't want to burn anything. Nothing should be brown or black. Okay, you're going to turn this off and put them into a bowl. I have my bowl here. I'm going to go ahead and just put these into a bowl off to this side. And then you're just going to work right back in the same pan. So you don't have to do anything except turn the heat off and set this over to the side. So now our next step is to crack the eggs into a bowl, and then we're going to dump them into the skillet. So I've got my eggs ready. And you may remember we want to crack them on the counter so that we don't get shells, although of course I got a shell, but that's okay. Got that out of there. Alrighty, so I've got my eggs here. I'm gonna wash my hands just in case there's any bacteria on the eggs. And we do not need to add anything new to the wok. We're just going to turn it back on, medium high or so. And it's okay if there's little pieces of onion in there, no big deal. And we're going to put the eggs in, and we're going to scramble them up here. And I'm putting all my stuff in my dish tub, well, my sink technically, but you will put everything in your dish tub as you go. You want to make sure you've got somebody doing dishes, because this one makes a lot of dishes. So you just keep moving them around, get them nicely scrambled. And notice I'm using a wooden spoon. I mean, this is kind of like a wooden spatula, but you can just use a wooden spoon. We're not using rubber scrapers in the stove, okay? That's not where you use a rubber scraper. Alrighty, my eggs look good, scrambled up nicely. I'm gonna turn off my heat again. Okay, here's where things get kind of fun. We start adding to this pan with the scrambled eggs. So we're gonna just toss in our rice. And you kind of want to break it up as you're putting it in. Yours will be cold, it'll be great, it'll work totally great. It should be cold actually. Mine's like almost cold. And then we're gonna add in the butter and the vegetables. And we're gonna just go ahead and throw in all the stuff that hasn't been cooked yet. So that's our broccoli, our carrots, our cabbage, and our green onions. All right. And we're gonna just kind of toss this around in the wok. And the reason we only do so much is because, you know, the pan can't handle more. And we're gonna make sure that the butter, if you guys have ever been to like Koki's or Benihana, this is very similar to how they do it on the big flat griddle in front of you when you're there. You're gonna break it up using your wooden spoon. And you're gonna, one of the things you may remember from last year is I always want you to like scoop to the bottom of the pan. So you're really mixing things up. So you're gonna scoop to the bottom, mix things up. Scoop to the bottom, mix things up. Break up the rice, we don't want any clumps. Mix up so that every bite has a little bit of each vegetable in it. And that butter, there's a little chunk that just came through, so let's make sure it gets mixed in. And I'm breaking up the rice, and I'm really scooping to the bottom and flipping things over. And this step is going to take about 10 minutes because you have to cook all those vegetables. Okay, now I'm moving on to step number 8. Once I got the butter melted and everything kind of mixed up a bit and I broke up the rice clumps, now we're going to add in the soy sauce. And we're gonna do approximately half a cup. Now, you don't have to put all of it. So you could start with like some, you know, less than half a cup. Stir it up, see if it coats all of it. And then if it looks like it needs more, you can definitely add some more, or you could add some afterwards. Either way, that will work great. And just keep stirring. And our goal is for every bite to look the same. Now I'm gonna add back in my cooked onions. Got a little piece of cabbage that escaped there. And remember, there really wasn't any salt anywhere. There were no spices, no nothing. The butter does have salt, but it's just such a small amount. So the soy sauce is pretty necessary, like for it to have any flavor, okay? So don't feel weird about the soy sauce. And then you're just gonna keep going until everything is cooked. And their carrots are probably the one to watch. Because remember that our carrots, like mine are pretty tiny and pretty flexible, but yours might be kind of chunky. So if they're not small, you're gonna have to cook them for a while. And you just keep going until everything looks consistently cooked and yummy and delicious.